All right, Algebra 1sters. We left off after we did 8-2, so we never got a chance to correct 8-2 homework. Okay, so I'll go through the homework, correct it, and then I'll just kind of do a couple questions that I think you might have some questions about. So number 1, you get 2x squared plus 16x. Number 3, 6h cubed plus 24h squared. Number 5, 3c to the fourth minus 6c squared minus 24c. Number 7, 4t cubed minus 24t plus 8t. Number 9, negative 14j cubed minus 56j squared minus 21j. Number 11, negative 6k to the fourth plus 2k cubed minus 20k. Number 13, 8v to the fifth minus 12v to the fourth plus 20v cubed. Number 15, 11w cubed plus 22w squared plus 66w. 17 is 2w. 19 is 18y squared. 21 is 54. 23 is 3. 25 is 2. 27 is 4x. 29 is 3j. 31, factor out of 3, multiply that by 4x minus 3. 33 is 12t times the quantity of 9t minus 5. 35, factor out 8y squared, multiply that by 4y plus 1. 37, factor out of 6, multiply that by 2n cubed minus 6n squared plus 3. 39, 14x squared times quantity of 3x squared minus 4x plus 2. 41, factor out 2m, multiply that by 4m squared plus 7m plus 3. 43, p squared, multiply that by 36p squared plus 14p plus 35. Number 45 is factor out of 4b, multiply that by b cubed plus 5b squared plus 3b. 47, factor out 17g, multiply that by 2g squared plus 3g plus 1. Number 49, you get 4x squared times the quantity of 9 pi minus 4. Okay, then we did a couple problems down here. 61, factor out 8mn squared. What you're left with is m squared n squared plus 4. 63, factor out a 12g squared k squared. What you're left with is 3k squared plus 2j squared. 65, factor out a 18c squared d squared. Multiply that by 3d minus 2c. 67, factor out a 3v to the fourth w cubed. Multiply that by 3v squared plus 11w squared. 69, they didn't factor out a 7x squared there. It should have been a 7x squared, not a 7x. All right, so the greatest common factor of two numbers j and k is 8. What is the greatest common factor of 2j and 2k? All right, well, if the greatest common factor is 8 between these two numbers, so let's say j is actually 8, and let's say k is also 8. Okay, and they have greatest common factor of 8. And it says, what is the greatest common factor of 2j and 2k? Well, you just multiply these by 2. So 2 times 8 and is going to be 16. So the greatest common factor would be 16. Kind of a weird one there. All right, let's just pick a couple and go over them, maybe 3 or 4 problems. Let's start out with number 11 here. Make some room. So number 11, distribution problem here. Just distribute. I get 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. And then I get k times k cubed is going to be k to the fourth. Okay, and then the next one over, multiply 2 times 1 right here. It's going to be plus 2. And then k times k squared is going to be k cubed. Last thing here, multiply 2k times negative 10. It's going to be negative 20k for number 11. All right, let's move on to number 20. Number 20, actually, let's do number 29. Okay, so I look at all these numbers, 36, 3, and 15. And they all have a 3 in common. All right, 3 times 12 is 36. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 5 is 15. And they also all have a j in common, so I can factor out a 3j. Let's do number 47. So 47. Okay, it might not be obvious here, but 34, if I break this number down, let's do 34g cubed, 51g squared, and 17g. Okay, we kind of did this method in class where we find the factors here. So 2 times 17 is 34, and then I got 3 g's in common here. And then this one, 51, is going to be 3 times 17, and that has 2 g's there. And then 17 is just 1 times 17. Don't need to write the 1, but I can write 1 times 17, and then g. So the greatest common factor is 17, and then they all have 1 g in common. So I can factor out that 17g. And then what I'm left with, after I factor that out, you can kind of think of it like this. I've already used these right here. So now I'm left with 2g squared. Where did I get that 2g squared from? Right here. Plus 3g. That's what I'm left with. And then plus 1. Okay, I'll highlight this in red. You don't want to forget this plus 1 at the end. Or I'll highlight it in purple. All right, so even though it's a 1, still have to write it, because when I redistribute it, I need to get to 17g. So 1 times 17g is going to be 17g. All right, next. It says circular head surround. Looking at number 49, a circular head surrounds a sculpture on a square base. The radius of the hedge is 6x. The side length of the square sculpture is 4x. What's the area of the hedge? Okay, so we're trying to figure out the area of the hedge. We got to subtract that square in there from the circle. Okay, so this is a good SAT problem. Let's get some room to work here on this one. So what I want to do is first write it out kind of in hieroglyphics. I got this circle minus the square. And the circle, formula for the area of a circle is pi r squared. A square is just going to be side squared. And this is going to be pi times 6x, the radius is 6x, squared, minus the square is going to be 4x squared. Okay, let's go over here with it now. So this is going to be pi times 36x squared after I distribute this squared here and here. And this is going to be minus 16x squared. All right, and I can kind of rewrite this as 36 pi x squared minus 16x squared. And then I notice that they have a x squared in common. And then I can factor out a 4 is the greatest common factor between these. So when I simplify that, that's going to be 4x squared. And this is going to be, I'm going to be left with 9 pi minus 4. Okay, so 9 pi minus 4. Okay, let's do one more here. Let's do number 67. Let's make some room here. So 67, I'm looking at this, and I'm going to find the greatest common factor here, and the greatest common factor is going to be 3. So I can factor out a 3. They both have 4 V's and 3 W's in common. All right, so 9 divided by 3, after I factor this out, so it's 3v to the 4th w cubed. 9 divided by 3 is 3 right here. V to the 6th over v to the 4th is going to be v squared. And then there's no w's there. Okay, these are going to just reduce to 1. And then I have 33 divided by 3 is going to be 11 v to the fourth is going to reduce to 1 over 1. And then I have 2 more w's up top over here. So that's going to be w squared. Okay, so I've got that. And then if you want to check your work, you can always, just take a step back here and redistribute it and see what you get. You can just factor this back in. Okay, that's what we get for our answer. Oops. All right, hopefully that helped you guys.